From The Times and The Sunday Times, this is The Story. I'm Luke Jones.
Okay, I will tell you that I have just got a message from my mother. She sent me right now on the messenger.
Just
on
now.
Facebook. Yeah, she told me we are tired, exhausted, worried. We want this war to be end.
And how do you feel reading that?
I don't know. Actually, I have no word to say to them because I feel the amount of pain and the amount of disappointment they feel now, because it is 1 year of war, 1 year of displacement, 1 year of killing. And also, when I talked to my sister, she had 3 kids. When I called her, she cried because she told me a year left without education, a year left without anything. What will happen to our children? What will happen to those poor kids? What is their fault?
You might recognise that voice. It's my colleague Amal Helles. She's a Gazan journalist who joined us at the Times shortly after the war broke out on the 7th of October last year. We've spoken to her before on the podcast. She took us into her 3 months living in Gaza as war broke out and consumed the place. She was still trying to work, she was looking after her children, and all the while exchanging WhatsApp voice notes with one of our producers. Gaza is where she'd spent her entire life at that point. She's since fled now, and stays in touch when she can with family and friends who are back in Gaza, when the internet service there allows. But a year on, where is she? What is her life now? And what is the life of those who she left behind in Gaza? The story today, a diary from Gaza. What happened next? We'll hear about Amal's life in a moment, but first, a reminder of the incredible journey she took over the last year. When Hamas crossed the border into Israel and went on their killing spree on the 7th of October, she was at home in Khan Yunis, a large city in the south of the Gaza Strip.
After the 7th of October, we stay at our home. But at the beginning of December, evacuation notices began, orders from the Israeli army to evacuate this area. I live in Khan Yunis. At first, I decided to stay because I thought it was far from us. But during the 2 days, the intensity of the bombardment and explosions increased. I felt that the time had to come to leave, and the next morning we decided to leave.
At that time, we were talking to Amal via WhatsApp voice notes. Here's the one she sent to us as she was preparing to leave her home.
Since the end of the humanitarian truce, the bombing has continued. Leaflets have been dropped on areas in Khan Yunis. We feel very afraid. My children are afraid. Things are getting difficult. I prepared my bags and some important items. We will evacuate from Khan Yunis to Rafah. What a difficult feeling it is to leave your home and your memories and not know whether there is a return or not.
I remember the day when we displaced, because we waited for a car for 7 hours and maybe more to evacuate us from Khan Yunis to Rafah. During our displacement journey, it was very difficult because the sound of bombing didn't stop for a single moment. We were exposed to being targeted all the time. I even looked my home and take the key. I still keep the key with me, hoping to return again. But it was only a few weeks until we got the news that our house became a pile of rubble. After that, we go to Rafah with my sister, her husband, our children. We displaced in something, I cannot call it an apartment because it's not apartment, it's a basement. We were about 17 people in a place where the sun and air didn't enter. After staying in western areas of Rafah for a while, it was about 11 p.m. We were sleeping. We had two mattresses on the floor. Suddenly, we hear the sound of strong explosions. Dust filled the place, and some small stones were scattered on us. I took the children, Mariam and Wajid, and carried them. When we went out, we found that the house next to us was bombed, and the family lost 11 members.
As that night unfolded, back in early January, Amal sent us another voice note.
We stayed awake until the morning, afraid to close our eyes. It's a truly scary night. I hope this nightmare will end. I hope I can protect my children. I don't know how many times we will escape certain death.
After this strike, actually, I tried to find another place, but no, I'm not lucky to find a place to rent. So we decided to go to my sister's house, which is in the eastern areas in Rafah. At that time, eastern areas in Rafah was a dangerous place, but we take the decision to go there. After that, the Times start the procedures to evacuate me and my family.
To get evacuated, Amal and her family needed to get on a list. This was the list that the guards at the Rafah crossing would be given to allow people out of Gaza. The border was very rarely open, and when it was, only a very select few were being allowed out. Finally, in February of this year, they were on that list, and Amal and her two children, Mariam and Waj, used the Rafah crossing to escape into Egypt.
My feeling at that time was mixed. I'm happy that we are survived, but in another way, I am really so sad because I left behind my husband. I left behind my whole family. And when you ask me before the war, what is your dream? I will tell you my dream is to travel because I have never traveled ever before the war. And this is the first time to travel. But my dream is to go around the world with my husband, with my children, not to travel in this way.
When we last spoke to you on the podcast, you were at the Rafah crossing and you had your permission to leave Gaza. You were there with your two children. And I mean, I don't know what you would have had with you, bags, a few possessions. How was it getting through and where did you get to from that point?
After we decided to get out from Gaza, I prepared my bag, only one bag. This is the only thing that I have. So we go to the Palestinian side. We sit there about 1 hour. Then we transfer to the Egyptian side. We stayed on the Egyptian side for about 5 hours in the Egyptian hall in order to make the procedures. One of the British embassy was welcoming us there, and he made all the facilities.
And how was the actual then journey, I guess, heading towards Cairo? And were you in a group of people, or was it just you and your kids and someone taking you there in a car or a bus? I mean, what was that journey like?
Someone from the embassy taking us on a van. The journey from the crossing to Cairo takes about 5 hours. Then we go to a complex which is called Medinti. Someone rented the place to me, some of my relative, and he lived in Cairo. It's not a complex only for Gaza. Many nationalities live in, but I choose this place to feel safe because it's a calm and comfortable place. And because I'm alone with two kids, I need to feel more security. And because I'm afraid, this is my first time to travel alone.
Yeah.
This is my first time to travel in my life.
And what was your days like there? What would you and the kids do?
Actually, my children, when they saw the life there in Egypt and families walking along the streets, all relaxed, and they just wanted to live again and forget, but it will take time. They are still traumatized about everything. In Egypt, they were afraid of the sounds of planes flying in the sky because we are near the airport. And if I slam the door by mistake, they think it is an explosion. They are trying
Oh,
to
bless them.
hide. Mariam said to me all the time, I feel my head is empty now. I asked her, what do you mean? She said there's no drones, no sound of drones. And they were amazed by the life there. There were a light and shops full of the biscuits, and they were shocked by everything. The water is coming out of the tap, and there is a bed for each one of them because we used to have one mattress or two mattresses and one blanket. So they amazed about everything. But in the first days, fear was with them all the time. Even when they closed their eyes, they were always asking me, we are in a safe zone, Mama.
And at this point as well, I should say, you were still working, of course, so you were still writing and the rest of it. And you were also trying to get a visa so you could go somewhere beyond Cairo. How difficult was that?
It's really difficult because, okay, we stay in Egypt 6 months, but I decided to go out because in Egypt, we have no official residency permits or documents, and so we cannot enroll the children in public school, or we cannot apply for jobs or receive health care and other benefits. Even for those with more resources, life has grown tough as their savings have run low.
And so you were then in Egypt for a number of months, as you said, and then 2 weeks ago, you then had another move. You're now in the Netherlands.
I'm in Netherlands and Amsterdam. I got a grant from Dutch Institution for Advanced Studies, a Safe Haven Fellowship. It's for artists, writers, journalists in the conflict zone. I want to investigate the role of female journalists in Gaza, how and why the female journalists become prominent voices in the coverage during this war.
We certainly know the benefit of having female journalists in Gaza because you've been able to illuminate it so much for us. You've got a lot of work to do actually investigating all of that. But as you embark on that, why do you think that female journalists were so prominent?
Western journalists were blockaded from entering Gaza. Instead, local journalists, and many of them content creators and influencers, stepped in. Along with myself and many female journalists like Abdel Aqad, Bisan Ouda, Hind al-Khudari became the faces of the war. As you know, Gaza is a conservative society. While women can and do work in all fields, this war gives the female journalists more freedom. We can go anywhere that male journalists go. And also in this war, we have advantage. I call it advantage because we can spend time with the women in a way that sometimes male journalists cannot. Women feel relaxed around us and trust us. And that helps us to tell their stories.
And that must feel like an enormous relief to be in the Netherlands and very safe, far from trouble.
This decision I made just for my children. And when I take the decision to travel was one of the most difficult decisions in my life because my husband, Samit, my partner, decided not to go with us and to stay with his work as he worked for an American outlet, NBC News channel. I argued with him many times. I also said to him, you have to come. But he refused because he said that I have to be, sorry, I think the words disappear.
That's all right. He was saying what? You were arguing about this, and he was saying, no, I have to stay for what reason? Because I have important work to do, because there's a story that still needs to be told, and one of us should stay here and tell it.
Yeah, Samit could have lived with us because his name was in the list. This opportunity that almost everyone in Gaza dream about, but he didn't do it because he had a duty to report from Gaza and spread our message to the whole world.
What has happened with him since then? Is he still there?
Yeah, he is still there. He's still working. I try to check on him all the time, but sometimes I cannot because the internet is not stable in Gaza. I start constantly browse the news for the fear that something happened to one of my family. I need to check that the headlines of the news it's not my family. When hours pass without talking to him, I try to contact those around him for fear that something might have happened to him, and my heart calms down when I hear his voice again.
I can imagine.
I never imagined actually my life without Samit and not seeing him. Months have passed without seeing him.
How are your children dealing with being separated from him? I mean, what do they say about why he's not with you?
They know that our home was destroyed. They know that we are now alone without anyone, without my family, without anyone. I always told them that you have to be strong. We are alone now. We try to call their father all the time, their family, their grandfathers, grandmothers, but sometimes they didn't want to talk to anyone because they feel angry because we are alone without any one of our families. But they feel exciting about everything, especially in Netherlands when we came with the airplane. They keep asking me, are we among the clouds when we are in the plane? Are we far from the ground? Many things. Wajih convinced himself that we are gonna to meet his father. I told him we couldn't meet your father in Netherlands, but he convinced himself that we will meet him here. But for me, while we were in the plane, I felt the enormous weight of responsibility that I was going to be alone in Europe with two children, but I have to be strong.
Do you worry about the lasting impact it will have on your children?
Yeah, actually, I'm really worried about their life. But when we came here and they rejoined the schools again and they're trying to get in touch with new friends, with the new people and the new language, I think my fears become less than before because I feel that they will adapt in this country. I'm happy that they are safe now with good education, with health. I can go to doctor or any hospital when they get sick. They are in safe environment.
Yes. And their life now is being back in school and doing what kids do. What about you, Amal? I mean, what is a normal life like for you now? I mean, you're still working as a journalist, but what's a normal day for you?
First, I have to take the children to their school. Then I have to go to the office, to Naya's office, the institution that I told you about, where I can go and do my research and work on my research. Still, I'm in touch with the Times and still in touch with the team in Gaza in order to get out the stories from Gaza. So many things. When I came here, I feel that I have too many things to do, but
Yes.
I'm working on that actually.
What is it like for you now, staying in touch with what is happening from many, many miles away? I mean, what are you hearing from your friends, family and loved ones who are still there?
My friends, my family, and Samit always talking to me about the widespread of diseases outbreaks in Gaza, about the blockade that reduces the availability of electricity. I feel that they live in humanitarian crisis without access to water, without having food, without anything. And for my family, they displaced many times, about 5 times my family displaced from one place to another. This war has caused vast destruction. Hospitals, schools, universities, homes, playgrounds, water wells, and more. And when we are talking about the bombing and the explosions all the times, even in Al-Mawasi, in Khan Yunis, which is called a safe zone.
A ceasefire seems a long way off. There's still all these humanitarian problems raging, not to mention the fighting. Do you have much hope that the situation might turn around soon?
After a year of continuous war, the Palestinians find themselves in a cycle of repeated displacement, poverty, and lack of basic necessities of life. In every home and every family, there is at least one murder. So for me, I think there will be no life after the war, no security, health, education, and no happiness.
And you said that every family had a martyr in it. So every family has lost at least one person during this. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. I mean that every family in Gaza have a pain. What kind of pain? Maybe a murder, maybe missing people who have been killed during the war, or have a child who got injured, or maybe destroying their home and displacement from their home.
And I wonder what you think the long-term impact of that will be. And what is the long-term impact on you as well?
I know that when you compared me to others, I'm lucky. A few weeks after we fled, our house was destroyed, but we are alive, and me and the kids are safe. I have an opportunity to see new things, and I have no choice but to live the life that is given to you, no matter how different your dream may once have been.
And just finally for me, Amal, I wonder, you're still in touch, of course, with your husband and your family and your friends who are there. Are all of your conversations consumed by the war and what is happening and whether they are safe? Or do you ever have a chance to talk to them like you might have done 2 years ago, with humour and jokes and happiness?
Actually, our calls and our messages are now limited to only, how are you? They said, we are fine, we are alive. We cannot speak more than this word, because suddenly the internet cut off. I cannot reach my brothers. I didn't hear their voice since 2 months. So it is difficult to reach to my friend and to my family in Gaza. Our calls or our chat is limited, very, very limited. Only, how are you? Okay, I'm fine. We are alive. That's it.
Amal Helles, my Times colleague from Gaza, now safely in the Netherlands. As the war back in her home continues to rage, of course, estimates put the number of displaced people internally in Gaza at 2,041,000 people are thought to have been killed, the Hamas-run health ministry says. And then there are, of course, the 97 Israeli hostages, which are still accounted for out of the 251 people that Hamas kidnapped when they launched their attacks on the 7th of October. We don't know how many of that 97 are still alive. We do know that 1,200 people were killed on October the 7th. We covered this in an episode hearing from actually one of the hostages who was held in the tunnels under Gaza by Hamas. We'll put a link to that episode in the description notes for this episode. The producer today was Olivia Case. The executive producer is Kate Ford. Sound design and theme composition was by Maula Seto. And I'm Luke Jones. I'll see you soon.